DocTalk is brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, sure trace mineral supplementation by timed injection.
Hi there and welcome to DocTalk. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'm sure glad you joined us because we're going to have an exciting show this morning talking about steroid implants in beef cattle. My guest today is Dr. Chris Reinhardt. He's a feedlot specialist here at Kansas State University, and we're going to talk about why we use steroid implants, the economic impact, and their safety. Thanks for joining us.
We've been using Multimin for about 7 years. It's one of the most multi-use products that we have here on the farm. Bulls, cows, calves, weaning age cattle, just about everything on the place. If they go through the chute, they get a shot of it. The primary use that we started Multimin was in our donor program, in our embryo transplant program. I'd recommend Multimin to any producer in the cattle business. Here at Deer Valley, every animal that goes through the chute gets a dose of Multimin.
This segment is brought to you by Rotomix, manufactured in the USA and designed for feeding performance in the feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Dr. Reinhardt, when we're talking about steroid implants today, and I know that you've studied them a lot in your career, not only in academia but out in industry, one of the things that keeps coming up is, well, what are they? What do they do? How safe are they? What would you just start out with? What are steroid implants?
The most important thing for both producers and consumers to understand is the active ingredients that we use in steroid implants are either identical to what that animal has in it every day, essentially from birth, or they're very, very similar to what that animal is using normally to regulate growth. And so it's nothing alien to the animal. It's simply using a system that's already in place in that steer or heifer to enhance their growth.
So we're coming out and we're bringing in the estradiol and we're bringing in the trenbolone acetates and things like that, and those are utilized by the animals same way they utilize the endogenous hormones that they produce every day. Well, then, we must have to use quite a bit of this product, or I guess, how much of this product is there being used?
The amount of hormone that's left in the animal at harvest after we use these products, I've heard a wise man once equate it in terms I can understand, it's about equivalent to one blade of grass in an entire football field.
Wow, that's not very much. So what size of dosage ranges are they utilizing? Say we're going to use a steroid implant in a suckling calf or in a finishing steer. What size doses are these?
That's a very critical point, especially for producers to understand, is what we want to use is a dose that's appropriate for the size and age and energy intake, nutrient intake of that animal. And so for the suckling calf, we have doses that are very appropriate for 200 to 300 pound calves. In the feedlot, we have completely different dosages that are 2 to 3 times higher, but they're appropriate for that much larger animal.
So what are we talking about? How many milligrams?
Normally we consider a dose for a calf would be kind of in that 7 to 11 milligram dose. In the feedlot, we're talking about twice that.
So same size or smaller than an Advil tablet?
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, very, very low dose. And the other thing that we have to consider from the food safety side is this product doesn't release all within one 24-hour period. They're designed to release over an extended period of time.
Safe? Product safe?
Proven safe for the past about 4 decades. The federal government, not just the United States federal government, but other governments as well, have required repeated demonstration that this isn't leaving residue in the food. We put those in the external part of the ear that, to the best of my knowledge, doesn't go into human food.
Excellent information. You're watching DocTalk, and we're sure glad you joined us.
Got cattle? Rotomix manufactures a complete line of energy-efficient rotary and vertical feed mixers for feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Our mixers are available with the patented Generation 2 staggered rotor, the industry standard for feeding wet rations that include wet distiller's grain. Made in the USA, Rotomix mixers are designed for feeding performance that American cattlemen and dairy producers have come to expect. Rotomix, proud to offer a better mix in less time using less fuel.
If our local animal agriculture industry disappeared, what else would disappear? The buses that get us to school? The playgrounds and ballparks we go to after school? The books and computers that help us learn and grow? Animal agriculture provides millions of dollars in tax revenue that pay for our school improvements, that pave the foundation that will build our future. A message from U.S. soybean farmers and their checkoff.
We've been using the multi-min on our donor cows, and after we started using it on them, we've seen a definite increase in grade number 1 embryos. I like the results that I get using multi-min with the AI conception rate.
Their minerals not up to snuff, you're gonna have problems, and I definitely think multi-min is good for, general healthiness of the cattle.
We think multi-min more than pays for itself.
America's ranchers and farmers have had a long-standing commitment to quality, and now the Checkoff-funded Beef Quality Assurance Program is working with you to improve our product for consumers. At bqa.org, you'll find an array of educational materials about BQA. You can also take our online course for BQA certification. BQA, it's a commitment to quality, it's a process for continuous improvement, and it's about doing the right thing.
This segment is brought to you by your Beef Quality Assurance Program, BQA, building consumer trust through your commitment to quality. Learn more at bqa.org.
Hi there and welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, and I'm joined by Dr. Chris Reinhardt, who's a friend and colleague. And Chris, we're talking about steroid implants in beef cattle, and we've talked about the safety of them and how little of a amount of product that we have to utilize. And now let's talk about, even though that's a little bit, it's got some pretty powerful effects when it comes to performance and economic value to the beef producer.
It really is amazing, that tiny little bit of product, again, nanograms, billionths of a gram, using the exact same growth systems that are already in place in that animal naturally, and yet we're able to achieve some pretty tremendous gains.
When we talk about, responses and we talk about implants, I always, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I always break it down into starting out with like that suckling calf. I look at then like the grower type area, and then the finished animal, that last 100 days of feeding a calf. What are some of the economic returns, and why do we see those economic returns in those 3 different segments?
Simply put, for a calf on grass, whether we're talking a suckling calf or a stocker calf, I like to use a number of about a 15% to 20% increase in gain that they would get on grass without that implant. So do the math. If they're gaining 2 pounds a day without an implant, we can get another 2 to 4/10 of a pound a day every day by using that implant on grass.
Pretty substantial increase in performance. What does that equilibrate into economics?
Real rough figuring, if I'm getting 30 extra pounds on that calf at sale time times $1.50, that's $45, which is real money.
That's today, that's any day that's real money, yeah. But calf prices sure are at a all-time high. So when we start thinking about moving that into the stalker and finisher area, do we see the same type of responses as we see in these littler calves, or is it different?
The other thing a producer needs to consider is the length of time I have to let that implant stimulate growth, the more advantage I'm going to get from that implant. So if I'm on grass 150 days and I've got active implant for that entire time, it pays more, even more so in the feedlot where we're providing the extra nutrients every day. It's worth more like $100 to $150 in the feedlot compared to the $45 to $60 out on grass.
Huh. So at any point in time in this animal's life when we use these, it's going to have a positive impact on his performance.
Definitely.
What would you say when you recommend, when you're sitting there looking and recommending to people, one of the questions I have is if they have an implant on grass that diminishes the effect of the implant in the feeding phase. Is there any truth to that?
There isn't, and there's been a tremendous number of studies run. If we use the appropriate implant on grass, whether suckling or stocker, and those cattle go to the feedlot and we use the appropriate implants in that phase, we get continually added performance from the next dosage of implant.
And what would be the common number of implants, or when we start talking about dosing them after they arrive at the feedlot, what are we talking about?
Normally, we'll give an arrival implant, again, appropriate for the size of the animal and the amount of nutrients they're eating, and then they'll come back in at 60 to 80, maybe 100 days after that and get a higher dose implant, again, appropriate for the size and nutrient intake of that animal, and that carries them on through till harvest.
This is great information. We're sure glad you're watching DocTalk, and we'll be back in a minute.
Got cattle? Rotomix manufactures a complete line of energy-efficient rotary and vertical feed mixers for feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations. Our mixers are available with the patented Generation 2 staggered rotor, the industry standard for feeding wet rations that include wet distiller's grain. Made in the USA, Rotomix mixers are designed for feeding performance that American cattlemen and dairy producers have come to expect. Rotomix, proud to offer a better mix in less time using less fuel.
Hi, I'm Kevin Ochsner, host of NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman and Colorado Rancher. Join me each week as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association brings you the latest updates in industry information and market news. Plus, each week we provide important educational information and features on cattlemen from across the country just like you. And we can't forget our favorite cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Join me for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman, debuting Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, right here on RFD TV.
Beef producers need a practical choice when antibiotic therapy is required. More than ever, they are reaching for non-prescription Noromycin 300LA from Norbrook, specially formulated to produce sustained antibiotic blood levels up to 4 days in cattle. Noromycin 300LA delivers economic, broad-spectrum disease management for pneumonia, shipping fever, pink eye, wound infections, and foot rot. See for yourself why Norbrook's Noromycin 300LA is the practical choice for your herd.
It's the big 94.5 Country Stampede presented by Verizon Wireless. Country Stampede, June 21st through 24th at Tunnel Creek State Park, Manhattan, Kansas. Starring the Zac Brown Band. Toby Keith. Also starring Luke Bryan, Jared Neiman, John Michael Montgomery, The Band Perry, Travis Tritt, and more. Buy now and save. Save on your tickets and campsite by going to our website, countrystampede.com. That's countrystampede.com.
This segment is brought to you by Norbrook Laboratories, manufacturers of Noromycin LA, Normectin Plus, 1%, and Poron, the practical choice for your herd. Hi there and welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Dr. Chris Reinhardt, who is the feedlot specialist for the state of Kansas. And Chris, we're talking about steroid implants today, something you're known nationally and internationally as an expert. And when we talk about, one of the questions I get a lot from beef producers, especially people that are going to retain ownership or don't know if they're going to retain ownership of the heifers, and I have a feeling a lot of that's going to happen this next year as we're building the cow herd back up. If I use a steroid implant on suckling heifers, do I have a negative impact on the potential of that heifer being a good, sound breeding heifer for my replacements in my cow herd? So in other words, are there negative impacts of steroid implants on the reproductive status of heifers?
After many studies looking into this, Dr. Thompson, the long story short is if we use the appropriate dose of implant for that lightweight heifer at an appropriate time, let's say 2 to 4 months of age, there's no negative impact. The flip side of that is there's no real benefit to the fertility or to the, let's say, mothering ability of that heifer from using the implant, but there's also limited, if any, downside.
So the big thing is if I know I'm going to keep them for replacement heifers, for a fact, from the time they're born, I probably shouldn't implant them. There's no need to implant them.
I agree 100%.
However, if I don't know, and I might sell those as market heifers, then, weight matters. So there really isn't a negative impact if we do it at the right time. So there, I would probably go ahead and implant those heifers.
Definitely. The pound advantage that we get from an implant and the extremely low risk that it may have any impact on fertility make this a fairly no-brainer.
So you said between 2 and 4 months is when we want to administer that product, and then you want to use probably a low potency or a suckling calf type of implant. What are some of the examples of those products?
Ralgro and Synovex C are the two products that I recommend the most. They're very low potency, they're appropriate for that very light heifer, and they work very well. Okay.
So moving from the heifer, the other question I get, of course, from people that are feeding these cattle is, I want to have the best carcass quality. And what I mean by that is I want to have marbling, lots of, marbling. So we're going to move from the suckling heifer, jump all the way to fat cattle. What are some of the impacts that steroid implants have on the carcass?
In the broad sense, the more implant we use, the more negative impact we will have on marbling score. Now that said, for the most part, if we manage the dose for the animal and the nutrient intake for their entire lifetime, we can actually mitigate or reduce much of the negative impact we'll have on marbling score.
So consult your nutritionist, work with your veterinarian, and kind of get a plan.
Definitely. And as you mentioned previously, pounds is king. And so what I would really like to strive for is a balance between achieving that marbling endpoint, but still getting as many pounds as I can on that carcass.
Lots of different ways to skin a cat. Thanks for watching DocTalk. We're going to be back here in a minute. We're going to continue our discussion with Dr. Reinhardt on steroid implants in beef cattle.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
This segment is brought to you by Rotomix, manufactured in the USA and designed for feeding performance in the feedlots, beef production, dairy, and cow-calf operations.
This is Agriculture Today from Kansas State University. Will the new federal farm bill be completed this year? K-State agricultural policy professor Barry Flinchbaugh believes that, as was the case back in 1995 and 96, the current farm bill will be extended for a short term until the new version is agreed upon. And he says it will look markedly different from what's in place now.
My feeling is, based on people I talked to and I followed pretty closely, is that we are about to repeat what happened in 95-96. We'll get a farm bill somewhere about April of 13, relying heavily on crop insurance, which is what farmers want, and then have this shallow loss band on top of it. We got a crack at getting it done, but it could be April of 13.
This is K-State Research and Extension.
Cow-calf, stocker, and feedlot producers know that effective parasite control improves overall herd performance and profitability. Norbrook offers a comprehensive, economical line of pour-on and injectable parasiticides for every livestock operation. Consult with your local animal health supplier to set up a program that protects your investment and brings larger cattle checks this fall. See for yourself why the Noramectin line from Norbrook is the practical choice for your herd.
Here in Dallas, we're proud that our vehicles use an advanced biofuel called biodiesel. It's made from renewable resources like soybean oil, canola oil, even recycled cooking oil. This year, biodiesel will displace almost 1 billion gallons of fossil fuel nationwide. Our air is cleaner, our economy is stronger, and America's more energy independent. It's working here, it can work in your community. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
This segment is brought to you by Purple Wave Auction, the easiest, most straightforward way to sell used equipment. Purple Wave. Straight, simple, sold. Welcome back to Doc Talk. Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, joined by Dr. Chris Reinhardt. And Dr. Reinhardt, we have been discussing steroid implants in beef cattle, and you serve as the feedlot specialist here for the state of Kansas, which is a huge cattle state in the U.S., so no pressure. But when we're talking about steroid implants, you know, let's kind of do some wrap-up. Safety.
40 years of demonstrated studies showing that really we're not harming our food supply by using implants.
And compared to other foodstuffs, I mean,
there's a tremendous number of very safe, healthy foods that have much more hormone, estrogen type equivalent in them. That doesn't make them bad, nor does it make implanted beef bad.
Yeah, I started looking at some of the things like cabbage and tofu and soy oils and different things like that. It's, you know, getting back to that blade of grass in the blade of grass in the football field type.
Hormones are part of normal growth, and if we were going to ban hormones, we'd have to ban the entire food supply.
That's right. So, efficacy, and we start thinking about, you know, at the end of the day, it's about technology that helps us produce beef with a less carbon footprint and fewer fossil fuels, right?
I bring a bigger animal off grass. I bring a larger animal and a larger carcass out of the feedlot on a similar, if not identical, amount of nutrients.
So we're really looking at our ability to produce beef not only more efficiently when we think about the economic side, but the biological side and its positive impacts of steroid implants on the carbon footprint.
Definitely, and that gets lost in the argument sometimes.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that we think about the potential, you know, first of all, make it clear that there's no issues with food safety. Two, they actually help improve our ability to produce beef when it comes to environmental impact. And then three, it helps keep our producers in business.
Definitely.
When you talk about economic impact, is there anything that compares as far as a management tool that you could use?
Nothing. Nothing we do that we can enhance the animal compares with steroid implants.
And again, they've been around. This isn't something that's been approved over the last 10 years. Been around all our life.
Longer than I've been alive. And again, the government is stringent on any pharmaceutical product that we're going to add to the food supply. We have to demonstrate safety.
Where do producers get their information on what implants to use in which cattle?
Definitely work with your local veterinarian, work with your local extension service. They're familiar with your cattle, they're familiar with your local environment.
Well, I think it's been some great information today, and I always enjoy having you on the show. Enjoy what you do for the state of Kansas and for our beef industry.
Thank you, Dr. Dan.
If you want to know more about what Dr. Reinhardt and I do here at Kansas State University, you can find us on the web at www.vet.ksu.edu. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University. We're sure glad you joined us today on Doc Talk. We'll see you down the road. Hi there, I'm Dr. Dan Thompson from DocTalk. Join me next week as we discuss breeding soundness exams in bulls and the importance they have on getting a calf crop on the ground. My guest will be Dr. Bob Larson, who's a professor at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University. And we'll discuss why this exam is so important. We'll discuss what goes on during the exam and stress the age-related factors to the performance of bulls. So please join me on DocTalk right here on RFD TV, and I'll see you down the road.
DocTalk was brought to you by Multimin USA, manufacturers of Multimin 90, sure trace mineral supplementation by timed injection.
We've been using the Multi-Min on our donor cows, and after we started using it on them, we've seen a definite increase in grade number 1 embryos. I like the results that I get using Multi-Min with the AI conception rate.
Their minerals not up to snuff, you're going to have problems, and I definitely think Multi-Min is good for, you know, general healthiness of the cattle.
We think Multi-Min more than pays for itself.